Cosplay, also known as Dom, if you actually know me. We're doing a little bit of a panel today on cosplay perspective. So, myself and Heather, Miss Saosin, we're basically going to talk about cosplay from a male's perspective and a female's perspective, and then a little bit about more the in-depth stuff about things like bullying, like being cos positive and things like that. So bear with us. First time we've ever done a panel, well, at least first time I've ever done a panel anyway. So pick one work. So from a male perspective, a couple of things that you have to look at is there's a lot of stuff surrounding size and shape, whether your character's really heavily built, whether it's a skinny character, whether you're supposed to have a lot of muscle, and general body weight as well. Now, I don't really pay much attention to it, I never have. Most of the characters I portray tend to be quite athletic, some from a military background, like I'm wearing crossbones today. I've done the Punisher before this as well. There's a lot of emphasis with those characters on being quite big, quite built, quite heavily muscled, and yet I don't really pay any attention to it. Other things as well is like males should be manly. You should do manly characters like again Punisher, Deadpool, things like that, manly characters. And yet at the same time, there are a lot of characters, especially on more the anime side of cosplay, that aren't as manly. If that makes any sense to you at all, they're quite slender, quite slim, and let's say it tends to get overlooked in some ways. In other ways, people use it as more of a way to try and put people down, a way to more attack people, and it's a little bit disappointing. I mean, in this sort of community, you need as many friends as you can get, especially when you've got positive friends as well. As they mentioned in the previous panel as well, it is very easy to try and focus on more of the negative side of things. So it's something for you to consider as well. And on the other side of stuff, that says don't abuse your station. Now, I've known from the past and I've heard stories and things, and I don't try and focus on it too much, but when males are got a following of quite a lot of females as well, you tend to find that some, not to name any names, there are some male cosplayers that will abuse their station. They have a lot of female followers, they have a lot of attention from the opposite sex, and what you tend to find is that people tend to abuse that. They draw people into situations, make them feel uncomfortable because they think they can get away with it, and it tends to put a dampener on male cosplayers. And at least from what I've experienced, we all get tarnished with a similar sort of brush, and especially at bigger conventions. Not so much this. I mean, this is a smaller convention, even though there's quite a big turnout. Places like MCM, you do hear a lot of horror stories where males have done a lot of things, whether it's with fans or whether it's just with random people, that shows us all in a negative light. So I advocate basically just knowing, not so much knowing your place, but knowing your boundaries and things like that. The last one, from a positive point, I always try and take on the character's persona. I do a lot of cosplayers that are men that are quite gruff, quite heavily built, and at the same time as well, men that don't really take any abuse from people. I mean, I grew up, when I was in school, I was in a very, very small school, and I got bullied quite a lot. I mean, you wouldn't think about it. From people that know me, the attitude that I normally take with my friends and things like that, you wouldn't think it, but I got bullied. And from that, the reason why I pick as many sort of cocky, arrogant, and sort of angry cosplayers is because I like taking on that persona. Because when it comes down to it, whether the attention you get is good or bad, it does help a little bit on the day to just be able to brush it off. When you take that away from you at that point, it's entirely dependent on the person. Everybody's different. Nobody might be like me. There are people in the audience that may not take criticism and abuse as well as I do. I'm more than happy to tell people where they can go, but some people don't. And as such, I find that taking on a persona and taking on a character will help you deal in some situations, especially social situations, with, I mean, you've seen the Deadpools knocking around. Everybody that I know that cosplays Deadpool is completely mental. And they don't care, they have a lot of fun doing it. So I always promote that. Take on your persona, take on your character, and enjoy what you're doing. So with that in mind, I'm going to hand over to the lovely Heather, and she's going to talk a little bit about hers as well.
Hi, I'm Heather, also known as Miss Saosin. I'm going to be talking about, from a female perspective, or what I've actually had from experience in my only 2 years of cosplaying. My first point is cosplay can be scary, and it will be if it's the first time you've ever gone out and worn a costume. My first cosplay that I ever did was Harley Quinn from Arkham City, and yes, there's lots of Harleys out there. And it was quite daunting. It's my first time to a convention, and I did not know what I was doing. I was kind of like thrown into it by you, and it's very daunting, but all you need to know is when you put on that costume, you become that character. I had face paint on, and the second I had face paint on, I was Harley. You know, I was able to run around and be daft and silly, and you've got to, if you're going to cosplay, you've got to take on the character, because otherwise if you're putting on a costume, you're just going to walk around and be Mardy all day. What's the point? The whole point is playing. It's called costume play for a reason. You don't just put on a costume and walk around. You've got to play, you've got to have fun, you've got to take on the characters per se. And my other thing is, which really annoys me as a female cosplayer, is girls have to be sexy. Newsflash, no you don't. I do not do that, but it obviously doesn't help. I don't do a lot of sexy cosplays. Like today, I'm quite a manly female, and I don't care. I'm not all about looking, not to offend people in the audience, but I'm not all about wanting to look pretty and Disney-like and, you know, twirling around. Sorry, Deborah. And I like being people that I can relate to. I don't even know how to go from that, but it's all the characters I choose to be is because I see something in them that I see in myself. Rose Wilson, for example, who I am today, Ravager, she's cocky, and I can be quite cocky when I need to be, but she's not a confident person. If you see Rose as herself, if you've ever read the comics, the DC comics, sorry, she's very, very shy, and then she just like loses herself and becomes this kick-ass woman, which I think is a really awesome thing to cosplay. You know, I have power. I am not a pretty girl for people to look at. I am going to kick your ass, basically. Another one which kind of leads from that is cosplay is confidence. When I put on a costume, I'm someone else. I don't have to be Heather. I'm not walking around being the girl that is a runner at ITV or stuff like that. I'm Rose, or yesterday I was Mimi, and it's brilliant because I had a lot of stage fright, despite the fact that I have a good drama background. I had a lot of stage fright, and so I never had the main parts. I was always in the background. But comes to cosplay, I put on a costume, and I'm like, yeah, everyone own it. You've got to own it, walk around, and kick ass, basically. Even if you're a princess, princesses can kick ass. And another thing is, don't abuse your privileges. A lot of times that I've seen from guests that, mainly at big conventions like in London, is, especially from females, is because they're a guest at the convention, they'll abuse the privileges. They'll be like, they'll literally sit there and they'll be like, I need some water, someone go get me some water. It's like, no, you're a human being, you have legs, go get it yourself. And that's what I don't like, that a lot of female cosplayers I've seen that they do, they abuse the privilege. They know that men are daunting over them, and they be all flirtatious just so they can get what they want out of it, and it's wrong. Don't do it, guys.
So we're going to talk a little bit about cross-playing as well, which is something that comes up quite a bit, especially with some of friends that aren't here. They tend to do a lot of cross-play, which is males cosplaying as females and females cosplaying as males, and you don't change that, you don't alter it in any way, you just take on that opposite sex persona. As you can see from the lovely picture on the left, taken by that guy over there with the glasses on, which is Kevin. Fantastic picture of my my female Cloud, which if any of the guys in the audience, don't ever shave your legs like I did, because that is the worst thing you will ever do in your life.
I'm not going to lie, the most awkward part in our relationship was him shouting me into the bathroom being like, Heather, I can't shave the back of my legs, help me.
It was worrying. It's technically not a proper crossplay. It's Cloud from Final Fantasy VII during one of the sections of the game where he puts on a female's outfit, and even despite that, some of the looks that I got during the day was, hang on, wait a minute, have you shaved your legs, you're dressed as a girl, that's a little bit worrying. Now, if you're that way inclined or whether you aren't, if you want to do that, go ahead. You are more than entitled to do. At the end of the day, as we've said a couple of times, you're a human being, you're more than entitled to free speech, freedom, you've got will, if you want to do it, go ahead. I mean, I got to carry around a huge sword, so that made up for it for me, personally. But that was sort of one of the first experiences that I had with a little bit of negativity and being judged in more of a negative light for me. So it was an eye-opener, it really was.
For me, my cosplay, as you can see, is Raiden from Metal Gear Rising. And what I loved about cosplaying as Raiden, even though he's a male character, he's quite feminine in the face, so it's quite an easy one to cosplay. It's the first crossplay that I've ever done, because I still got to wear makeup, I didn't care. And what was brilliant when I wore it to London in October was that people were coming up to me and they were literally, because I had to strap myself down and everything, people were like, is that a dude or is it a girl? And I took that as a compliment, because when I first played the game, apart from him being called Raiden, I was like, is it a girl or is it a boy? Because he walks around in high heels, and it's like, what man walks around in high heels? But no, it was awesome, and that's actually probably the only cosplay I've not had any negative feedback from, apart from craftsmanship. But it was all constructive anyway. But yeah, cosplay, it's if you're a girl and you want to be a man, go and be a man. You know, there is nothing wrong with that. And guys, if you want to wear heels and put makeup on, do it. There is nothing wrong with it whatsoever. You can be as sexy as you want to be.
Prime example, the lady just Mel. I'm going to talk a little bit about size, doesn't matter. I covered it a little bit in my opening bit, but it's never acceptable to judge anybody, any way, shape or form.
Body shaming is wrong.
It is. Friend over here, actually, a little bit in the audience just there. Friend of ours, he gets judged a little bit because he's a bigger sized gentleman and he cosplays as a Jedi. And I've heard comments where people have nearly got, well, I'm not going to advocate it, but I've on some occasions nearly lost my rag with people because they're saying fat this and huge that, and it's not acceptable in any way, shape or form. You're not supposed to judge people, and people again taking on personas and things like that. It's not okay. It'll never be okay, and until the community decides that they're going to start not standing this sort of thing, we'll start pushing people out that do this sort of thing. It's going to continue to be a problem, which is unfortunate. It really is.
What I want to say is that I have a close friend of mine who's never cosplayed before, and her favourite game is Borderlands. She is a very, very slim girl, and her favourite character is Ellie. And as you can see from the photo, Ellie is quite a large woman. She has spoken to some of her friends that do cosplay, and they've been doing it for many, many years now. And which really, really annoys me, is that they literally turn around and say, well, you can't cosplay her, you're not big enough, you can't do that. And she was like, well, what if I got a fat suit? And they were like, well, no, because you look stupid. And it's just, this girl's never cosplayed before, you do not do that. I'm not going to name and shame those people, because it's just wrong. But it's also wrong to put down someone's confidence when they've never done something before. They want to, tread the water, test it a little, and their friends literally turn around and be like, no, that's going to be stupid, you're going to look daft. Another thing is like body shapes. Every character that I've ever seen, whether it's been comics, games, books, I never imagined it, they are not realistic shapes. And none of the cosplays characters are ever realistic body shapes. For example, Darius from League of Legends. What man is going to naturally be that big? Unless you go to the gym every single day of your life, you're never going to be that muscly. And many guys I know that are either really, really big and they're like, oh, but I'm fat, I'm not muscly, I can't do that. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. I know a skinny guy that wants to cosplay him, and he's like, oh, I'm not big enough, I can't do it. I'm like, yes, you can. Just go and do it. If you want to cosplay someone that is your favourite character, that is what cosplaying is about. Becoming the character you want to be. So, yeah. And Disney just, they annoy me. I'm sorry, Deborah. But Disney annoys me. They're really skinny and unrealistic expectations, and it really upsets me.
Like the little caption there that's under the hashtag #CosPositive, it's something that's always been promoted. There are plenty of Facebook groups out there. Gentleman in the corner over there that's filming us for one of the actual groups themselves, which is the Cosplay Support Movement. They've always pushed and they've always been helpful, no matter what you say and what you do. Somebody will always be there to help you along, and someone will always be there to just give you that little kick up the rear, as it were, and just say, look, if you want to do it, go ahead and do it. Like, there'll always be constructive criticism as well. If there is criticism there, it's always constructive. It's never done in a negative way, which is always something that's good.
Another thing just to slightly mention about CSM, it is a Facebook group, and I advise anyone that is here listening to join it. It's called Cosplay Support Movement. It's a Facebook group where everyone supports each other, and literally if you've got one negative comment, that person is then removed. So you have no problems. Bullying is not tolerated there.
So yeah, we've gone over this a little bit about being who you want to be. Let's say it doesn't matter whether it's male, female, tall, short.
I have a slight obsession with think new, sorry.
It is about doing what you want. Like I said, you've all chosen to come here, you've all chosen to come to a comic convention. That's being who you want. I mean, I work in an office. I actually work for a very well-known telecommunications company. Nobody in my office would ever understand this if I were to explain it to them. But I don't have to justify it to anybody. The only person you've got to justify...
Try and explain it to people at ITV and the Jerry McCall show. That's awkward.
Exactly. Not everybody's going to understand. And you don't have to justify it to anybody. You're never going to have to. No, if anybody asks that many questions, they're either interested and they're sort of... What's the word I'm looking for? If you pardon the turn of phrase, they're in the closet about it and they don't want to, do it. I mean, gentlemen sat here in the Greek Pride shirt, they ran a Kickstarter campaign called Don't Hide It, Wear It, which is about taking on You're in a Geek and just putting it out there and enjoying doing what you're doing. So you've got no reason not to. You
Never
really
be
don't.
ashamed of your fandoms either. That's what it's about.
So,
general ignorance.
Yeah, so we've got general ignorance. This is something that comes up, and I know it seems like we're focusing on the negatives, but we're trying to make something positive out of this by letting people know that these things occur. So there are some of you sat in the audience that may want to consider jumping into cosplay. And you're hearing a lot of negative stuff. This is more about the perspective of people inside, where we can give you a little bit of information and let you know what might be coming so you can prepare yourself. Because no matter what you do, whether it is cosplay, whether it's sport, whether it's anything, you're going to get criticism, and preparing people for that is something I advocate quite a bit. And because of that general ignorance, and things we mean by this, like I said, being judgmental of someone's costume, whether it is bought, and as it's been mentioned a couple of panels, when you buy it or when you hand make it, doesn't make a difference. But some people judge people because they buy things. I mean, this entire ensemble that I'm wearing is bought. Mask is bought that I've painted. Vest is bought that I've painted. I've not gone out, I've not hand-stitched and hand-sewn this and built panels or anything else. And that's okay. I mean, what the lady's wearing over here, made from material, from scratch, by hand, that's
Apart
made.
from attaching thing to a morph suit that I've cut up, but yeah.
But even doing that, that's okay. There is no reason on God's green earth that you should be judging people based on the costumes. How well a costume was made as well.
Yeah, how well the costume was made. I was at a convention a few weeks ago, in March, and I was trying to give advice to people from another panel that I did there, and I got told off by someone in the audience because, as a lot of you know, I can also be known as Captain Wing It with cosplay because I really don't care as long as I'm having fun and I think I look like the character. And I got told off because I was told that I wasn't allowed to tell people that they're allowed to glue their hems, like the Think New picture. I am obsessed with gluing hems because I'm not good with a sewing machine, I'm not good with hand stitching, it hurts. I poke myself and I bleed and I don't like to bleed. Gluing hems and gluing costumes together, there is nothing wrong with that, especially if you're just starting out. You don't need to be this fabulous seamstress, or male seamstress, I don't know. But however you craft your costume, people shouldn't put you down for that. If that's how you want to make it, you make it like that. If it's easy for you, if it's in your budget, that's what you do. If someone's out there telling you that you can't use that kind of thread or that kind of material for that costume because it will look cheap and nasty, just walk away. Just walk away from that conversation or log off wherever it is. Because there is nothing wrong with it. Another thing is, as Dominic mentioned before, is it doesn't matter whether you have bought a costume, modded a costume, or literally handmade it. There are a lot of people out there that are like, cosplay doesn't count if you've not made your costume. Yes, it does. You're a character, it counts. Do you think people that are in the films made their own costumes? No, they have someone making it for them. But do people diss them for being a character? No, they don't, because they look awesome.
Yeah, I mean, again, about props and things like that, we came to about whether you've handmade them, whether you've commissioned them. If you make them out of cardboard, you've made them out of cardboard. Make them out of wood,
These are just dull panels.
Again, It's more about enjoying yourself. And I know we keep going over enjoying yourself, but that's all we can advocate is enjoying
You need
yourself.
to play. Look at the children that run around in costumes. You think they give a damn? No, they don't. They're having fun. They're seeing their favourite characters. It's amazing. And back to the whole prop thing. You don't need a prop because yesterday I walked around as Mimi. Did I have a prop? No. Did I have fun? Yes, I did.
And they got, last of all, as we said, that just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's a bad cosplay. And I've heard this, especially on some of the groups as well, saying about certain groups of cosplayers, i.e. a certain fandom and things like that. It's a bad cosplay because it's not technically cosplayable. I mean, the Doctor Who cosplayers, for one, are a prime example of people that get laid into quite a bit. Because theirs are more costumes that you can just pull out of a closet. You can go to Primark or TK Maxx or anywhere, you can go out and buy those bits and wear them. Doesn't make it a bad cosplay. It's a fandom that people enjoy. I mean, world over, whether it is in Britain or in America or Australia, it doesn't matter. Nobody really cares because they enjoy it. Doesn't make it a bad cosplay because you don't like the fandom.
Yeah, it's like yesterday. Not a lot of people knew who I was, but it didn't matter to me. Like, because it's something I wanted to make, and it was handmade. I was really chuffed. It was the first time I made a dress. It was rubbish, but I looked awesome because I say I look awesome, so I looked awesome. But yeah, just because you don't like that certain fandom, like lots of people didn't like how I looked, or because it was like bright colours. I have a thing for bright colours, and people were like, oh well, it's not really that good, is it? And I'm like, why not? Just because you've not heard of it, or just because you don't like the character, or why? And they're like, oh well, you know, I'm not really a fan of that. I am awesome. Happy.
Believe me, it makes a difference whether you like something. If you've got to get up at 6 in the morning to help her get into corsets and things, you have to like those sort of things.
Oh, but you've got a hand paint me.
No, don't bother. A big thing, cosplay is not consent. I touched on this a little bit about using a station and things like that. It's never okay, and I have witnessed it this weekend with certain people. It's not just about physical interaction with cosplay not being consent. It extends to people that maybe take pictures or film and things like that. Asking is the biggest thing you can do. It's always more appreciated if you ask somebody, asking them to, can I take a picture of you? Yeah, that's absolutely fine. If you're in the middle of doing something, look, can you give me a couple of minutes? I'll just come back to me, I'm in the middle of something. Like I said, the consent thing doesn't just extend to, like I said, the physical side of things. Asking, you know, is people okay as well?
Yeah.
Before you take pictures, can I film you? Are you all right to be in a video? And as the previous panel mentioned, if any of you did take part in listening to it, getting references and things beforehand is always good to put you at ease. But like I said, 9 times out of 10, the whole cosplay is not consent thing is mainly extended out to physical interaction, physical touching and things like that. Running up to people.
Harassment as well, walking around and following someone around a convention. You don't do that. It's not nice. If you want a photo, as Don mentioned, all you have to do is take out those 10 seconds and be like, please, can I take a photo of you? It's much better than standing on the sideline and taking a really unposed photo where not only the cosplay but the costume looks unflattering. They would rather see photos of them online where they're nice and posed. You'd look better if you were taking photos of someone that was nice and posed. And with the whole harassment thing as well, I know it's happened to a lot of girls, but I've seen it happen to men as well. So you just have to be careful with what's going on out there. A lot of girls that I know do wear revealing costumes because it's someone that they want to cosplay, but that does not give anyone the right to go up and be like, is it okay if I just touch you? I've literally seen that happen. I've seen men that go to ask for a photo, which is perfectly fine, and then they've gone and grabbed the girl's bum, and that's just wrong. You don't do that. You have to ask permission for everything. It is wrong. It's harassment.
This doesn't just concern cosplayers as well. This also concerns photographers. I have experienced it, I'm sure a gentleman over there's experienced it, where you stood posing for a specific photographer because they've taken the time to ask, and then people jump onto that opportunity. I don't think that's okay either. If you want to bother to stop, again, like I said, asking the cosplayer, can you take a picture of it?
If I see you doing that to a photographer, I will walk in front of your shots. That if you see me randomly pose in front of someone's shot, it's because someone else has walked in on another photographer taking a photo, and I will walk in. It's wrong. You don't do it. You have to ask.
So we're going to touch a little bit on a project that was done by a friend of ours over at Food and Cosplay, which was the hashtag not a cosplayer. I'm wearing my band that he went around and handed out to people. And basically what this was a social experiment to get people in costume to write down on the board what the worst thing, or maybe just one of the things that's been said to you, and then pose with it. And he took a picture of it, and he did it to illustrate just how many people, whether you're in costume or not, get this sort of abuse. Mine over there on the right said, "Why do you only do what's popular?" Somebody asked, somebody was out and out really disgusted by the fact that I only did popular characters. Punisher, Arnold from Assassin's Creed. It was genuinely offending, and I couldn't fathom why. Like, why do I only do what's popular? Because I feel like it. That's my choice. And again, like I said, the social experiment went really well. And it did illustrate just how many people were, no matter where you were in the country, no matter what con it was. I mean, it was taken over the course of several months.
Yeah.
This instance was in London in May 2013 and... 2014. And the amount of people and the amount of pictures that he took over that weekend of people that had gotten completely negative responses, whether they were snide comments or whether it was about body size and things, which obviously we've already touched on, was unbelievable. I mean, there is an entire, if you go onto the Food and Cosplay Facebook page, there's an entire section in his photo albums that is just not a cosplayer. And I urge people that maybe have experienced this before to go on and look, see you're not alone. You aren't alone. Other people have experienced it. It's just these people chose to stand up. And it's not naming and shaming by any stretch of the imagination, but it's there. It's in black and white for people to see, or in this case in colour, for people to see.
It happens to all of us. Another thing that I want to touch about is that Eddie, our friend from Food and Cosplay who did it, he got a lot of negative feedback about it because he thought, people thought that he was being like, hashtag you're not a cosplayer because of this, and thinking that he was going around taking photos of these people being like, you're not a cosplayer, and it wasn't. It's an anti-bullying movement, and that's what it's about. So he did, after this one, do another one being like, hashtag I am a cosplayer because of this, and it was all the nice comments that people had said about them. Like, oh my god, your costume is amazing. For me, mine was because Jessica Negri fangirled over me because she was the first time she'd ever seen Elise Templar in person, and I was like, okay. These are just a few people who are from hashtag not a cosplayer. A lot of them, like mine, was, as a lot of you will have probably experienced, is you're too fat to do that cosplay. No, you're not. And mine was fat for latex because it was the first time I've ever worn latex. It's the first time I'd ever used that kind of like costume before, and I got a lot of negative feedback. And it was online, there were a lot of trolls online, so please beware. They're just out there to try and make you have a bad day. All you need to do is either block or delete or just walk away. Just log off for a few hours and go back later. You'll just laugh at it.
Yeah, some of the people that are in this are actually in the audience with us. Like I said, lady over there in the wedding dress, lady just sat here as well. And this, like I said, did bring it to light in a massive way. A lot of people, especially in the UK cosplay scene, started to work out that this is something that happens a lot more frequently than you think. I mean, it stems back to the fact that cosplay started, at least from, well, this started in Japan, but it got really big in America. And I've read some stories as well from very famous cosplayers about the negative side of stuff as well. And this was to more illustrate that it's not just on that side of the pond that this happens. It happens over here. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, you are going to get negative people. It's how you choose to approach that.
But you also get good feedback. I know we've talked a lot about the negative side, but you do get a lot of good feedback as well. We're just letting you know that the bad stuff is out there. It's becoming less of a taboo per se, because people wouldn't talk about it because it's wrong, you know. You're not allowed to talk about body shaming and things like that, but you are. It's okay. It's okay if you've had that happen to you. It's okay to deal with it. The first time, like when I got told I was too fat for latex, I'm not going to lie, I cried. I sat at my computer and I cried. And I was like, I was meant to wear the costume the next day, and I was like, I don't want to wear it, I don't want to wear it. And my good friends, my cos family per se, they were all like, but you looked amazing, you looked amazing. And I was like, well, why should this one negative comment make me feel that bad that I don't want to go out again and wear it when I have all my friends, all these random people that have to stop to take pictures of me. They're like, you look amazing, I want to see it, I want to see it again. So just don't let that one negative person have such a huge impact on your cosplay, so much so that you're not going to want to wear it or want to cosplay, because that has happened to a good friend of ours as well.
Yeah. So basically, well, it does sound a little bit corny, but everybody that decides to throw on a costume, you're getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and putting a full face of makeup on it, you're strapping yourself into a corset and everything, you technically are classed as a hero. I had to strap the lady into a corset this morning. I've body painted her. I've literally spent 2.5 hours
5 o'clock in the morning
with a sponge at 5 a.m. painting her into something. And this is multiple illustrate as well, where you started out. The one on the left for me was when I first started out, which is most of the stuff you'll actually see me wearing. It's gone through some iteration of another. When I started out doing a cosplay from Army 2, that was back in 2013. Here now on the right is my more recent Nightwing cosplay from the picture got taken at MagicCon by James, who's kicking about here somewhere. He's one of the photographers that's around here, and it illustrated to me just how far I've come as a cosplayer, just how well I've managed to be able to deal with that sort of thing. Because I got to a point early 2014 where I just thought to myself, I really can't be bothered. The stuff that I'd heard and the grief that I would get in, and I was asking myself why it was worth it, and weekends like this illustrate why it's worth it.
And then one day you woke up and was like, I'm going to be Nightwing.
Yeah, I just woke up one day and decided, you know what, I might as well. But from working like 9 till 5, you might have an office job during the day. If you get 2 days in a month, or 2 days every couple of months, where you get to throw on face paint, you chuck on a silly costume, you run round like a blue rear-ended fly, and you have fun with people that you don't get to see very often, as far as I'm concerned, it's worth it. And I'll keep coming back and doing it, probably until the point at which, well, my knees will probably give out before I give up, so.
We're still doing this when we're 70, right?
Probably.
For me, my first cosplay was Harley Quinn from Arkham City, which I think I mentioned before, and a more recent one, which was Raiden from Metal Gear Rising, which I know I've shown because I love it. I am obsessed with it. It's just showing like progress, and that you can start out, and it might not be your best costume, but you will always you just skipped it. You will always get better. You can't just make one costume and then go to make another and like, no, I'm giving up, it's not going to look as good as I want it to be. The more costumes you make, the better it's going to look. But one thing is, don't stress yourself out when you're making a costume either. Don't let it like take over your life so much so that you get so upset and you're like, no, I'm going to bed, I'm not dealing with this. If you're getting that annoyed, if you're getting burnt by your glue gun or warblers attacking you, just take an hour break or just go to bed and go back to it tomorrow. Don't let it take over your life so much so that it's even stressing you when you go to work because you're like, oh no, I've got to go home. Don't leave costumes to the last minute either. Like, plan ahead. You don't want to be stressing the night before the con, which I know a lot of people do and a lot of people in the audience have done, is that like they're rushing around to just get a costume finished for a convention. It's not all about, going to conventions is not all about being a costume. You can go and not have to cosplay either.
So like I said, to everybody that's actually turned up, thank you very much first of all, especially to the people that turned up in costume as well.
Cosplay is a wonderful community.
You won't make it worth it. Some people here might be the first time, it might be the 100th time. The point is, regardless of what most people say, and I know we went over a lot of the bad stuff, but it is a wonderful thing to do. And if you haven't bothered before, I urge you to go out and try it. It might be for you, it might not be, but give it a go. And that's about it, really. If
you have any questions about like how to deal with personal experiences and stuff, because we haven't really touched on how we dealt with it, is that if you see us around today, just come and ask us. We don't bite. It might look scary, but we're really nice people, honest.
Apart from that, thank you very much
for
listening to his ramble.